First up, we have Air Drawn Dagger with Guide for Apparitions. This is a debut album from this English band that has really caught me by surprise, and I really enjoy what I'm hearing. It's a unique blend of modern hard rock, 90s alternative rock, some emo elements, and they're just creating this style that fits at home in 1999 as much as it does in 2025. There's many twists and turns that happen throughout the album that takes you by surprise in the most rewarding of ways. The production is top-notch, making everything strike so hard, and the vocal melodies, no matter how heavy or melodic they get, feel so appropriate and needed. While this is not going to be for everyone, especially those that normally check out my list, but if you enjoy something that feels as catchy as it does dark in an almost radio-friendly kind of way, give this one a shot. I think you just might be won over by what you hear. Next up is what I hope I'm pronouncing right, but I deeply apologize for butchering, Elderon with Par de la Les Semes. If I got that wrong again, I am so sorry. 5 albums into this French metal band's career, and they have created the perfect soundtrack to 2025 in black metal. It's cold, dark, brooding, and filled with this mystical feeling that is so hard to describe, but when you hear it, it completely makes sense. Though the winter season is over, that does feel perfect for this particular season. As I'm writing this up, I'm looking outside and it's snowing, so, what are you gonna do? But the production is quite raw, but it's also very appropriate. If you dig the likes of Dissection, Campfire, and Winder, you will find something to love here with Alteron. Up now, we have Allegion with the Ossuary Lens. I can't believe Allegion is on their 7th album already. Even more so, I can't believe that they sound this refreshed and inspired in all of that time. The band has conquered everything from tech death to melodeath to progressive death metal, and now in 2025, the band decided, hey, why not do all of it? Doing everything from some of the proggiest moments of the band's career to the best in vocals for the first time ever in the band, to easily some of the catchiest moments the band has ever written. This all may sound like a giant hodgepodge of sound, but I assure you that it all makes sense when you listen to it. No matter the era of the band that you enjoy, there is something here for you, and it only gets better on repeats. With Ezra Haynes back in the band full-time for the first time in 11 years, it feels like both sides have taken everything that they've learned while apart and created something that might even be their finest record so far. Time will tell on that, but this is easily some of the best work the band has ever done, and it's great to see them come back together again, all for the name of Allegion. Absolutely incredible work. Up now, we have Bleed From Within with Zenith. The 7th album from this Scottish outfit sees the band exploring more of what can be done with modern metalcore and modern metal in general. The band started off with more melodeath territories, but has been exploring more commercial aspects ever since that time, and Zenith feels like the pinnacle of that sound so far. Whether you're looking for something more along the lines of Slipknot, Upon a Burning Body, or even aspects of Latter Day After the Burial, there is something here that just hits that niche of that 21st century metal that can be heavy, but almost catchy enough to be on hard rock radio. One merit to give this album is that it feels authentic. This doesn't feel like a cash grab. This feels like the band is wanting to make this kind of music, and it's working for them. The production is spot on, the songwriting is lean with no fat whatsoever. For anyone looking for the sound, I can't imagine you'd be disappointed with this one. Next up, we have Buried Realm with The Dormant Darkness. Josh Doomer's 4th solo album is easily some of the best work he's done so far. Feeling like this grand mix of scar symmetry, Soilwork, and Allegion, this is a spectacular display of blending melodeath and tech death together in perfect harmony. And wouldn't you know it, Speed from Soilwork and Christian Elfstrom, formerly of Scar Symmetry, shows up on this one to showcase their phenomenal vocal stylings in just the right spots. This is a grandiose album that is filled with so much melody, harmony, and technicality that shines through and through, and it really does showcase what can still be done in melodic death, tech death, and progressive death metal. Incredible work that should not be ignored. If this sounds intriguing to you at all, please check out the brand new album from Buried Realm. This is Det Neglector with Kinda Rips, and once you know it, it does kinda rip. Going into a completely different direction with the sophomore album from this Florida punk band is Det Neglector. This is pure 90s punk through and through. That is the right mix of rough and ready style of punk mixed in with just enough of that 90s pop punk sound to satisfy both sides of the punk equation. This album is short and sweet with 13 songs and roughly 35 minutes long. This flies by, and it reminds me of those great moments growing up on the genre and leaves you wanting more. Between all 3 EPs and their debut album before this, there's plenty to love here if you dig punk, and this finds a way to pay tribute to the past, all while forging forward in the sound to really make it their own. It's great hearing this done in 2025 with such authenticity. Need some really good punk rock and pop punk in 2025, and I think that comes from Det Neglector. Now we have Fractal Universe with the Great Filters. Fractal Universe is back with their 4th album, and what a wonderful album they have given us in this time. Continuing what would sound like if you mix Cynic and The Faceless together to create one of the best displays of progressive death metal, and it just keeps getting better and better with every listen. It's just proggy enough, it's just technical enough, but it never loses that sense of groove or direction in the songs. The production fits like a glove, and the musicianship on this one is just off the charts. I've always loved what these guys have done, and I hope that this album will show them off in the best light yet, and I really hope more people catch on to them, because if you dig this style of progressive metal, progressive death metal, and tech death with predominantly clean vocals, you will need Fractal Universe. Next up, we have Frantic Amber with Death Becomes Her. I have been loving Frantic Amber since their debut album, and I actually interviewed the band on their previous album, but now they are back with their most vicious album to date. A thematic album about the different female serial killers throughout history, and it leads to the band writing some of their most heavy and brutal work to date. While the melodeath side is still here, they just up the death metal side and the brutality in just the right ways to make this sound grand, but absolutely crushing. The production on this is just perfect, and it just mixes that raw, punchy, and clean feel behind it all. The songwriting and musicianship sells this album. It's also just great to see a thematic album back in melodeath once more. I mean, I know it's not something that's foreign to the idea. I just love seeing thematic albums like this. Magnificent work all around. Give this one a proper shot if you just need that fix of the heaviest sides of melodeath. Up next is the self-titled debut from a band that I really hope I'm pronouncing the name right of, Koritzis. This is a debut album from this Indianapolis band, and it's quite the experience. Feeling the right amount of sludgy doom while adding the right hints of hardcore to it all. Feels like a paradox in sound, but it makes so much sense when you listen to it. I hear elements of bands like Inter Arma, Torch, and I Hate God all over this one. It's an awesome thing to hear, especially for a debut album. The production on this one is off the charts, and it fits the mold of what's going on, and the songwriting never feels like it's lingering or unneeded. Every note here has a purpose. What an excellent combination of genres, and they create something that is more than worthy of your time if you like sludge, doom, and hardcore. Up now we have Leave with The Cost of Compromise. The debut album from this German band is some of the catchiest modern rock I've heard all year. It has this way of combining what works best in hard rock, radio rock, emo, and occasionally the metal, metalcore, and progressive metalcore elements to create something that feels like once it drops today, it's going to explode in popularity. This easily needs to be on hard rock radio, and I'm dumbfounded how they're not currently on it. For those that like Story of the Year, I Prevail, Taking Back Sunday, and Bad Omens, this is more than meant for you. They have combined the best of what works, and as long as you can appreciate more commercial and modern rock and metal sounds, this is something that you need to latch onto immediately. Also, they do one of the best covers of the Goo Goo Dolls' Iris that I'll ever hear. Now we have Messiah Paratroops with Legions of Tomorrow. And you know, they always say you can't rush your debut album, and this is definitely a band that did not do that. How so? Well, they formed in 1989, and now, today, their debut album drops. Of course, a lot of stuff happened along the way, but you know, it is crazy to think that I was a year old when this band formed, and now they're putting out their debut. Regardless of it all, this is that late 80s, early 90s OSDM, that old school death metal sound that works so very, very well. Imagine Morbid Angel meets Death meets that early day set-in sound to create that OSDM that we all know and love. It's dark, gruesome, and it hits in all the right elements to make this an album that all the old school death metal fans are sure to love. 9 songs, 34 minutes, and everything that you love about OSDM. I can't sell it any better than that. Now we have Moon Destroys with She Walks by Moonlight. Juan Montoya, formerly of Torch, is back with a new project that explores more of the shoegaze, indie rock, and the occasional left of center moments of his musical palette. Also add in past and present members of Monstro, which Juan is also a part of, Royal Thunder, and Sunday Driver, and you have an intriguing mix of musicians that are creating a band that feels as relevant in 1985, 95, 2005, 2015, and now 2025. It feels like if you released this in any of the past decades, it would entirely make sense and leave you wanting more. It gets just heavy enough, but it's much more about the atmosphere that's going on. It's meant to leave you in a trance more than anything, and will leave you wondering where you are at the end of it. It's so effective in what they're trying to accomplish, and the more you listen, the more that it all starts to click. If you want something that's heavy in a different way, check out Moon Destroys. Next up is Tomorrow with Beyond Obsidian Euphoria, and this is easily an album of the year contender for me. The sophomore album from this Georgia band is everything that I was hoping it would be. For anyone who's followed me over the past few years, you know this band's debut album, Ashen Realms of Stone Icons, was my favorite album of 2022, and now Beyond Obsidian Euphoria has a great chance of doing the same thing in 2025. While nowhere near as dark or as heartbreaking as that debut album, I don't know anyone who can match that emotional intensity in this style of music. This is meant to be more of an album of self-realization, learning from the past, and especially moving onward. Don't get me wrong, this album is filled to the brim with emotion, catharsis, and moments that make me tear up every time that I spin the album. But it also gives me more hope, and in 2025, who couldn't use a little more hope in their lives? If you've never checked out the band before and you listen to this, you're probably going to listen and wondering what the hell I'm talking about, as this is the extreme ends of black and death metal, and you're not wrong. But dig deeper. The pain-induced clean vocals, the emotional lead riffs, the lyrics, all of that combined create this emotional experience you're simply not going to get anywhere else in this style. While this gets technical, progressive, left of center, and especially brutal, it's how it's packaged together that makes it all work. You can hear bands such as Cynic, Allegiant, Fallujah, as much as you hear bands like Neov Lascaris, and Abstract Illusion, and Desiderium. It's one of my favorite albums of the year so far, and I can't imagine that this will not be near the top when it comes to the end of the year. It's just that astounding of a masterpiece. Now we have Warfield with their new album, With the Old Breed. This is Sodom-inspired thrash in all of the best ways, and it's about time that it's done with this kind of authenticity. Sure, other bands have been inspired by Sodom in the past, but hearing it done like this just makes me happy. Besides being a loving tribute to that band, they do enough to differentiate themselves, and they're not just a straight-up clone. You can hear other German thrash bands in here like Destruction and Creator, but they also have their own inspirations that they throw into this as well. I will say this kind of gives 21st Century Sodom a run for its money for the best aggressive thrash in this vein, especially coming out of Germany. 10 songs, 42 minutes, and unrelenting thrash in its heaviest forms. If that can't sell you on this, I don't know what could. If you dig thrash, you need Warfield in your life. And finally, for brand new stuff out today is Wrath of Logarius with Groan of Mortis. This is a Bloodborne-inspired band that is just a jaw-dropper of a black metal album, hitting almost every single style of black metal, making it feel seamless or really formless, when they add just these elements of other outside influences of death metal, breakdowns, and other twists and turns that you simply just won't see coming. This is some of the most refreshing black metal I've heard in a very long time. 9 songs, a little over 37 minutes. This thing just comes in, destroys everything in its path before it steps back into the underworld. I like how you really can't categorize what style of black metal this is, because it hits every sub-style of it, and they do it with such ease. It doesn't even feel contrived or forced in any way. This is what they wanted to make. I feel like this is going to usher in a new era of black metal that's going to blow people's minds for decades to come. Maybe it won't do it immediately, but once people catch on, it's going to happen. This is an early contender for the best black metal album of the year. I don't know what could possibly top this. And now for everything that I missed along the way, starting with Death Heaven, with Lonely People with Power. And I gotta say, I think Death Heaven is at their strongest form ever. In an album that I'm so curious to see what direction they were going to be going in, considering their previous album was about 99.5% shoegaze, which is that tiny little bit at the very end going back into their old sound. Death Heaven is trying to reclaim that black gaze throne, and they have the potential to take it back if they didn't already. Granted, so many bands have been inspired by this band, and have been doing what Death Heaven has been pulling off for almost 15 years now. And of course, Death Heaven took that from other bands as well, but you know what I'm getting at. But to see them come back with what might be their best album to date is mesmerizing. Hearing 2 singles off this album, I was intrigued, but I was also kind of skeptical. Like, one single I really loved and the other one not so much. Then I heard the whole album and it was everything I wanted it to be. I'm still not going to be a big fan of when they do the pure shoegaze indie rock sound that they've done on the previous album Infinite Granite, but when it's done with the black gaze sound, they've shown everyone new and old to the genre how it's truly done. Is it the best black gaze album of the year? Well, time will tell. But it's at least a contender, and I don't think any other black gaze album is gonna have Jenna Hayes on the cover, so, you know, bonus points right there. Oh, memories. But yeah, if you want an album that is just not only going to show you how black gaze can improve and make it some of the strongest formula to date in black gaze, Death Heaven might be putting all the naysayers to shame with Lonely People with Power. Next, we have Mechana with Bellum Interruptum. The 12th album in this saga, known as Mechana, is what the world needs right now. It's a majestic blend of melodeath, symphonic metal, industrial, and other cybernetic inspirations to create a sound that is their own. While you'll hear elements of bands like Fear Factory, Cybreed, and Zerath, they stand alone. The band continues to find a way to get more brutal yet also more melodic at the same time, which sounds like a paradox, but it's an incredible thing to see. It's been a few years since the last album, which is a bummer considering they were doing an album almost every year for a bit of time there. They are continuing the story of As Embers Turn to Dust, and I hope they never stop with it. They just continue to improve the machine on every release, and this is easily some of their best work. If you've never checked out Mechana before and you like any of the subgenres or bands I've talked about here, you owe it to yourself to do so. They are more than worthy of your time. Now we have Savage Master with Dark and Dangerous. One of the best straight up heavy metal albums that I've heard so far this year. This combined everything that you love about the past and brings it to the present. While this is my first foray into the band, I'm definitely going to be going and checking out all 5 albums in their catalog. Stacey Savage and company provide a soundtrack to the best elements of bands like Saxon, Merciful Fate, Warlock, and the late great Huntress to make something that's old school and new school, and all those fans are able to find something to love about this one. The production is just raw enough, but the songwriting is endlessly catchy and everything is being performed just for the songs. This is how it's done, folks. Check out Savage Master. Next up is Sonus Mortis with Synapse the Hive Mind. The 8th album from this Irish one-man band is fantastic, and it's done in a way that is hard to describe. It gets just as brutal as it does majestic, as it does melodic, as it does evil sounding. It's so inspired and innovative, all while hearing elements of music that you already love. Kevin Byrne is doing some work here that so many musicians wish they could only pull off with such ease. It hits all the extremes while never sounding forced. It hits levels of musicianship that feels like bands that have been playing for decades could never pull off, and the production is just pristine in all the right ways. It hits a lot of different elements as well. I'm sure you won't like everything that's being done here, but I think the moments that you dig are done with such perfection that it will lead to repeat listens now and forever. This is spectacular work that if you enjoy the extreme and melodic ends of metal, you'll really need in your life. And finally, we're ending with some more AOR with Wheels of Fire and All In. This is the 4th album from this Italian AOR melodic rock band, and it just captures that late 70s, early 80s AOR style with such authenticity and the occasional metal moments that really strike you hard. Much like so many bands in the genre, you're not going to find anything too far out of their element, but that's not the point of this music. The point is to create the most solid and rockin' AOR they possibly can, and this more than fits that bill. From the dirty, gritty blues rock sound to the more heavy metal moments to just everything that you love about AOR, it's all here and you couldn't ask for anything more. The genre of AOR has been done graciously this year, and so much incredible music in the genre has been performed so far, and I'm glad Wheels of Fire is another one of those bands that are carrying the torch in 2025. Absolutely stellar work. First up, we have Exiled Hope with Apocrypha. The 3rd album from the grand and electric band from Sofia Fraz is quite the trip. It explores so much of what can be done in the dark, brooding underworld of metal, all while adding so many familiar elements to it all. You'll hear elements of bands like Nightwish, Camelot, but you'll also hear some more doomy territories, you'll hear some black metal elements that are sure to shock you, and this overall feeling of majestic and hellish landscapes that feels like when you mix Brimir and Emperor together. All while this might sound like a mishmash of genres, I assure you it works so very well in execution. The music sinks its teeth into you, and the more that you listen to it, it just gets better and better over time. This is incredible work, and if you have an appreciation for a large scale of metal genres, especially those on the dark side, you are bound to love what is happening here with Exiled Hope. Now we have In the Woods with Utra. While the band has made some changes over the years, and I do mean a lot of changes, the 7th album from this long-running band continues to see the band shine through the darkness. The 2nd album, featuring Bernd Fürstad on vocals, just makes the band plunge into the deepest and darkest senses of emotion, with some heart-wrenching vocals on display, with both clean and black metal screams. The music accompanying it all is a tear-jerking display in all the best ways. It just adds this overall emotion. It's a grand mix of progressive, gothic, and black metal that feels overwhelming, but it works so effectively that you'll be playing this over and over again for years to come. The band continues to find a way to improve while never losing sight of what the band is all about, which is no easy feat to accomplish. This is going to be one of my favorite albums of the year for a good reason, and if you love your sorrow-filled metal filled with dark emotion, you need to check out In the Woods. Now we have Messo with The Spin. The fourth album from this Italian band is easily at their best to date, combining a dark sense of doom metal, occult rock, but starting to incorporate some 80s goth tinges to make the music stand out amongst the rest, and it's an incredible thing to experience. It feels like you have been transported back to 1985 and someone mixed Candlemass and the Sisters of Mercy together while bringing Windham back to the past with them to create the sound that just keeps getting better and better the more you listen to it. It's dark, brooding, filled with this raw but appropriate production style that just hits right in every single note. This is incredible work, and if you want a mix of that doom, gothic, and occult rock sound all rolled into one, you should give this one a proper listen. You'll be so glad that you did. Next up, we have Rock Out with Let's Call It Rock and Roll. The third album from the Swiss band just fits the right spot for this style in 2025. In what feels like a grand mix of Faster Pussycat, Cinderella, and just the right amounts of Blue Murder and, let's face it, an overall good sense of cheese, gives this band a classic feel but updated just enough for the 2020s. The songs are just that kind of catchy where you know where it's gonna go, but you also want it to go in that direction because it just makes the most sense. It's bluesy, catchy, rockin', and just feels good to the soul. It's nostalgic but modern at the same time, which can not always work, but I think it does here. I love when bands are able to pull something like this off and still sounds authentic. This is what the band wanted to pull off, and it simply works. This is meant for anyone who misses the good old days of that 80s hard rock style, and again, a good sense of cheese, but they want it for a 2020 sound. Next, we have Samtar with The Bug of Cosmic Delusions. The seventh album in 5 years from this prolific project is quite the trip that I was not even close for ready for, but I'm so glad that I took the journey. This is my first foray into the band, and it shows me this blend of progressive rock, avant-garde metal, and explores so many different genres that all comes as a shock when you first hear it, but makes sense when you let the album play out. I hear moments, sometimes even in the same song, from bands like Mr. Bungle, Opeth, Camel, System of a Down, and other bands. It's quite the mind screw for sure, but it's so intriguing and it instantly captured my attention and is yet to let go. When someone can explore what is possible in such a way like this, and still finds a way to make it palatable for audiences, you instantly have me as a fan. I have to go back and check out what Samtar has done with the previous albums, but if it's anything like what's being performed here, I think I might become obsessed. This is how you innovate and make music truly your own. Bravo. Now we have Valhalor with Beyond the Stars. 2 albums into this Australian band's career, and they feel like they're just on the cusp of taking over the folk metal world, combining just the right elements of folk instrumentation, epic soundscapes from the keyboards, and mixing vocal delivery in just the right ways. Makes this band something you simply can't get enough of. Feeling like a wonderful mix of Elvati, Early Day Equilibrium, and Wolf Chant brings this band to the forefront of the genre and simply doesn't let go. The production is so on point, and the songwriting is exactly what is called for without going overboard on anything. It's the kind of album that you can keep going back to and discover more and more layers as time goes on. What an incredible display of music for the genre that is in desperate need of a shot in an arm. This band deserves to be huge. Listen to them and make it so. And finally, for brand new stuff out today is Versatile with Les Litanies du Vide. The debut album from this Swiss band feels like an unholy mix of black metal and industrial, and I'm all here for it. Combining the best of what works in both genres and making the music extra eerie and spine-tingling is just what the music calls for. It's grandiose, mystical, and at times very unnerving, but that's exactly what it needs to be. The production fits like a glove for the style, and the music sways from hard-hitting to a bit more whimsical, but never losing sight of that pure evil it is unleashing onto the world. This mix of styles works magnificently, and considering this is just the band's debut album, it has me so curious to see where they'll go from here. Absolutely killer work. And now it's time for all the stuff that I've missed along the way, starting with the sophomore album from this French band known as Aris with The Calling. This is a band that combines hardcore, metalcore, and black metal in a way that is just very satisfying to the ears. Never venturing too far into one direction, the band has combined these genres in a way that just feels so catchy, but it also feels so dark. The production has that early 2000s black metal production in which I really dig, and it feels like everything was written with this hardcore sensibility, making sure that nothing goes on too long, and it goes goes on just long enough to be effective. This won't be for everyone, but if you want to hear this niche sound, I couldn't recommend this one enough. It scratches an itch that I didn't know I had, and all I want is more. Now we have Autumn's Dawn with We Lost Our Hope Along the Way. Agalock meets Woods of Desolation meets Catatonia. It feels like this band was made just for me. The third album from this Australian duo hits so hard on what I love about the dark edges of post-rock and mixes it with this post-black and depressive black metal genres that just soothe the soul. Despite the subject matter being quite dark and sadly relatable, while not intentional, this album couldn't feel more appropriate in the world that we live in 2025, especially the last few months, am I right? This is an emotional wreck of an album, and I wouldn't want it any other way. The production feels like they took equipment and the EQ from Agalock's The Mantle and just perfected it for their own sound. 8 songs and 43 minutes long, this does exactly what it needs to do. It'll make you cry, it'll make you contemplate the hardships of life, and leave you broken. I can't get enough of this, and if you like your depressing music very, very depressing, check out Autumn's Dawn. Now we have Blossom and Wither with Nevermore. It takes a lot for an album to make you feel so much emotion in the metal genre without ever saying a word, and that's exactly what Blossom and Wither are all about. The debut album from this Netherlands band is some of the most gripping and hard-hitting, emotionally wrecking music that I've heard so far this year. The music just takes you through some of the darkest senses, whether it comes closer to the post-rock side of things, gets in the near black metal territory, or just messes you up with their unique blend of genre bending that is meant to punch your soul. The production is perfect for the style, and the songwriting I just can't say enough good things about. This is such a heart-wrenching experience of an album, and I wouldn't want it any other way. I hope this band explodes into the stratosphere as they deserve it. This is what needs to be done on the darker edge of post-metal. Give this one a proper shot, and I think you'll agree, even if you're not an instrumental fan. Next up is Captain Blackbeard with Chasing Danger. Based on a recommendation that I got from a YouTube comment, thank you very much for doing so, I discovered the Swedish band's 7th album and I couldn't be more thankful. That perfect blend of AOR and melodic rock and metal that just soothes the soul. The solos are simply perfect, the vocals are those blends of highs and lows that I couldn't get more of and they feel so appropriate. The music just hits that rock, metal, synth, and AOR sensibility, all while doing it so many times and it never gets old. It's just that feel-good music in a time where it feels so hard to feel good, so you have to take advantage of anything that'll make you smile. That's what this band pulls off with perfection, and I can't get enough of it. If you love AOR, I think you'll have to agree when you listen to Captain Blackbeard. Up now we have Celestial Ember with All Real Numbers. The debut album from this American band is proving that modern progressive metal doesn't just need to be about the gents and the chug-chugs. Don't get me wrong, they do happen, and they actually do happen a lot, but it's not the focal point. This band is all about pushing the boundaries of what the heavier ends of the style of prog really can be, and it just feels right. It can be soothing right before it crushes you sonically. It can be poppy and catchy and then blindside you with some of the heaviest riffs of the genre, and then it'll incorporate some saxophone and get very jazzy and intricate in ways that you simply don't see coming. It may sound like a hodgepodge of sound, but when you listen to it, it all makes sense. The vocals, while predominantly clean, even sounds clean with the screams and growls with how it's enunciated, making this much more accessible to outside listeners. This pushes the boundaries of what bands like Periphery, After the Burial, and Tesseract have done in the past, but it shows the future of what prog in this style can be. It just gets better with every listen, and if you dig the genre of the heavier ends of that progressive metal core sound, I think you just might have to agree. Now we have Defender with Dying to Live. The debut album from this German band is just that perfect blend of the past and present that feels like the genre of revival metal is doing so very well, but it never loses sight of what they're trying to achieve. The songs never go on too long. I mean, it's 11 songs in a little over 42 minutes, which just feels appropriate. The songs are familiar, but they're supposed to be. That said, it also sounds very fresh and authentic. The production just has that pure 1985 sound that you just can't fake. This is feel-good metal that you simply can't get enough of, especially for the style, and it only gets better the more that you listen to it. Considering this is just a debut album, I can sense this band only continue to refine and improve their sound going forward. This is exactly what I love in the genre of revival metal, and if you dig that style of classic metal, you won't be disappointed in Defender. Next, we have Embroinial, with Inherited Tendencies for Self-Destruction. 4 albums into this Polish death metal band's catalog shows the band at their most refined and devastating to date. This feels like the perfect blend of Immolation, Morbid Angel, and Vader, and it just destroys everything in its path. It leaves you battered and broken, and it just feels so good to listen to. Once you know it, that's exactly what the band was hoping to do. At 11 songs and almost 37 minutes long, it gives you a song or two to catch your breath, like the opening and a little instrumental part, and the rest pummels you into oblivion. It's not the cheery album that you would expect it to be either. In fact, it's an album about how we've ruined the world, and the world needs to be put to rest. And considering what's happening right now, there's a good argument for that to be true. This is some of the most monstrous death metal that unabashedly crushes you. If you love that style of nearly brutal death metal, Embroinial may do it better than anyone else in 2025. Up now, we have Flesh Spoil with what sadly might be the only band's album, The Beginning of the End. This is just this perfect blend of blackened death metal, progressive death metal, and so much more that just feels evil enough while never losing that brutal side, and just that occasional proggy side as well. The guitars have that early day black metal tones mixed in with just the right amount of black metal growls, some occasional clean vocals, and some absolutely punishing drumming. Sadly, Jeff Andrews of Flesh Spoil passed away just a week before the album's release, and it's a heartbreaking thing to see. The band's production fits like a glove, and the songwriting sounds like if you mix Morbid Angel, incorporated some more black metal tendencies, and again, some prog. I don't know what will happen to the band going forward. I'm assuming they're not going to continue on without Jeff, but thankfully they were able to give us at least one album, and it's of absolute quality. If this sounds like it's right for you, hearing some blackened death metal and some progressive death metal thrown together, trust me, it will be. Give this one a shot if you dig this style. Now we have Heathen Heretic with Whispers from the Abyss. I have to thank the Harsh Vocals podcast for bringing this to my attention. They played this on their show, and I can't get enough of it. It's a sophomore album from the Swiss melodeath band, and I am astounded by what I'm hearing. It's a blend of some of the heaviest ends of melodeath, while bordering on some pure death metal at times, and some very, very clean vocals. And that vocal performance by Viola Bona is insane, from her blood-curdling screams and growls to those haunting cleans. Match that up with a soundtrack backing it all that feels like it's coming from the deepest, darkest pits of hell, all while soaring in just the right spots. This is some killer stuff, and if you like your melodeath on the darkest, heaviest edges, you need to check out Heathen Heretic. Now we have Hermith with Aether. Nick from Ghost Heart Nebula and Therese from Funeral Void have created a band that is so dark, dreary, and soul-draining, but it's absolutely gorgeous in sound. The sophomore album from this duo borders on funeral doom with how slow and dirgy it feels, but it is out of this world experience that focuses on the ideals of outer space and the void that comes with it all. This is the kind of album that you can put on and you can contemplate what life is even about. It's so gripping and sad. The production is that kind of raw feeling where it feels like it's out in outer space, it feels like it's galaxies away, but it makes you want to experience it. This is not the kind of album that you put on if you're happy. It will bring you down. But if you're doing rough, you just may need to put an album like this on to get through this thing that we call life. I've come very close to crying every time I've put this one on, and I'm thankful for that experience, because it's nice that I can relate to something like that. This is one of the most introspective albums that I've heard all year, and it'll only take one listen for you to understand why that might be the same for you as well. Now we have Industrial Puke with Alive to No Avail. I'm gonna keep this one short and sweet, just like the album. Crust punk meets hardcore meets that HM2 pedal 90s death metal. It's the perfect combination. This is a sophomore album from the Swedish band that just rolls those three genres into one. It gets heavy when it needs to. It's just that perfect crust punk D beats going along with it all, and just those occasional hardcore riffs that you can just feel everything around you getting destroyed. 12 songs, almost 29 minutes long. It's just the perfect length, and it just feels like you're being pummeled into dust, and you just want more. If you want a mix of death metal, crust punk, and hardcore in perfect disharmony, you can't do better than Industrial Puke. Now we have Insane with Rogue Waves. The debut album from this Israeli band lists themselves as angry, melodic, and chaotic. And once you know it, that couldn't be more appropriate in 2025. And in 2025, you have every right to be angry right now. I mean, this feels like a mix of Gojira, Mutiny Within, and Protest the Hero. And if you like those bands, I think you're gonna love what's going on here. The production is pristine, the songwriting hits that perfect level of going proggy but never wanky, and the songs are just so enjoyable from beginning to end. This couldn't feel more appropriate of an album for modern times if they tried. If you want an album that feels like a proggy version of that feeling that you should be feeling now, check out Insane. Now we have Lady Beast with The Inner Alchemist. 5 years since their previous album and their 5th album overall, this Pennsylvania powerhouse of a band is back, and we needed them back. Lady Beast hits that style of classic heavy metal, revival metal, and the occasional power metal elements, especially that classic power metal sound, that is just so satisfying to the ears. The production is just that right kind of 80s sound, all while hitting some more modern songwriting. If you dig the likes of Huntress, Savage Master, and especially that early day Iron Maiden sound, Lady Beast is doing exactly what you need, and you'll be so glad that you heard them. Absolutely excellent stuff. Up now we have Living Tales with Hades. The 4th album from this Portuguese band is doing some of the best material of their date. They hit that style of symphonic progressive metal with just the right amount of hints of power metal, folk metal, and that pure heavy metal sound that just feels so appropriate. The songs are endlessly catchy and they take you on this journey of the senses. You can hear how the band has refined and improved so much over the years, and again, this is some of their best material to date. They feel like such an appropriate band to play Prog Power USA or Prog Power Europe one day. Well, over here in the States if the visa issue ever gets settled, but hey, that's a different story. If you need this style right now, you need to pick this one up and enjoy it. Next, we have Marble Orchard with Ruminations of Ruin. The sophomore album from this Texas band is raw, haunting, and exactly what this gothic doom genre needs right now. Typo Negative meets early day Candlemass and just the right amounts of My Dying Bride. My dark, sad boy doom sensibilities are fulfilled here with Marble Orchard. The production is a bit on the raw side, but it also feels very appropriate. It kind of gives like this late 80s, early 90s sound. It feels like a throwback, but it is modernized just enough in its songwriting to make it stand out. It's been a while since I've heard a band pulling off this style of gothic doom, and it just makes me so happy to hear. If you like your doom in this vein, I can't imagine you'd be disappointed by this one. It's just what the world needs now. Here we have March of Skyla with Andromeda. Made on the darkest fringes of post-metal, the sophomore album from this French band is exactly that darker post-metal that bands in the genre should be striving for in today's age. It's heavy, hard-hitting, and filled to the brim with emotion. It hits you on so many levels that are just what you want to hear in this style. The production style couldn't feel more appropriate, and the songwriting hits that landscapes with such ease, and it just begs for repeat listens. Everything from what makes post-metal such a great genre, to incorporating moments of near black and death metal territories, and some unbelievably catchy moments as well that you just don't see coming, but it makes so much sense as you listen to it. If this sounds intriguing to you in the slightest, I highly recommend checking this one out. I think you'll be glad that you did. Now we have some Minnesota music here with Pestifere with There Was Never Light. 3 albums into this Minneapolis band's career, and they are on this upward trajectory that is just unrivaled, featuring past and present members of Sunless, Australis, and the Bill Pulmonary Embolism. What a great name. The band continues to pave the way for how black metal and melodeath should feel authentic, and they're doing exactly what they want to create. The production is on the raw side, but it is warranted here. The songwriting fits what it needs to be with 6 songs and 36 minutes long. It has enough atmosphere to create this unique sound that feels both like an existential look at the world and being surrounded by the forest, which, you know, that's pretty much what the standard living situation is in Minnesota. But seriously, this is a top contender for albums that blend these genres together, and it shows others how it should be done. If you want some of the best of this blackened melodeath sound, check out Pestifere. Now we have 7 with Interdimensional Act 3, Shadows in the Sky. The 3rd album from this Vegas one-person project is hitting a vein that needs to be tapped. In what feels like a mix of Sleep Token, Meshuggah, Periphery, and A Perfect Circle, 7 is hitting that modern metal style with just enough prog and other elements to have this universal appeal that is hard to accomplish, but they nail it. If you dig Sleep Token and you want to get into heavier music, this is the kind of band that you need to check out. The production is stellar. The songwriting is so on point, it's not even funny, and again, it just has this universal appeal that I can't imagine anyone who likes prog, commercial rock, or somewhere in between would be disappointed in this. From the guitar stylings, the insane vocals, and the pure atmosphere of it all, this has something for everyone, all while being themselves. Give this one a proper shot, you just might be glad that you did. Now we have Varia with The Changing of Tides. This is the sophomore album from this Virginia band, and I'm actually quite impressed. Building a base of metalcore and hard rock that feels like natural extensions of what was built in the early 2000s, but updating it for 25 years later is quite the achievement. When they hit the breakdowns, they get heavy, but when they hit their choruses, it's some of the catchiest and most earworm-inducing moments I've heard in this style all year. The album also goes into the occasional twists and turns into some genre bending that fits like a glove. This may be a band that feels like it's catered more to the radio-friendly crowd, but there is just enough heavy moments to satisfy those that are looking for more. If you want to hear what radio should be playing, check out Varia. Next, we have Vinegar Hill with Darkness Echoes. The fifth album from this Austrian melodeath band feels so appropriate right now. A band that perfectly blends some of the heaviest and catchiest moments of melodeath into one package. It hits some of the most poppy and catchy moments of that middle era In Flames as well, while incorporating bands like At the Gates to balance it all out. It feels like the best of both worlds if you want the thrashy, melodeath, and kind of poppy sides. The production has this distinct 90s melodeath flair to it, and the songwriting just feels so inspired. It just feels like that direction that we all wish In Flames would have taken after Come Clarity. If that sounds like it's for you, I assure you this will be. Check this one out. Now we have Vintros with Time Scarred. The debut album from this UK band featuring members of Ageless Summoning, Black Talon, and Ashen Horde is an incredible ride, hitting moments of different subgenres of black metal without ever losing their black metal charm. I can hear moments of Harkyrie for the Sky, Agalok, and Agrippni throughout all of this in the best of ways. The production is a little raw, but not too much. It just feels right. The songwriting is explosive and emotionally gripping. It's a dark and depressing album that just couldn't feel more appropriate for modern times. It's also the kind of album that you just need to put on for yourself and just let it take over you. It will hit hard, but it will be so worth it. If you dig the style, especially of that post-black and black metal side, you need some Vintros in your life. Now we have Vaya with Instar. Another debut album here with Vaya, a prog metal band that instantly caught my attention. While the music does have many similarities to bands like Haken, Monuments, Polyphia, and others, the vocals are what makes it stand out amongst the crowd. The vocals provided by Sky Hall soar above the music and are done without the need of any kind of screams or growls to the sound. I mean, they sometimes get heavier, but that's not a focal point. Providing just this gorgeous base of everything to get as poppy, catchy, proggy, and everything they need to add to their sound. The production is pristine for this style. The songwriting grows on you more and more with each listen. This feels like such a natural progression of what modern progressive metalcore can and should be. And it shows that you don't need to be about being the heaviest or the most brutal band with down-tuned guitars and breakdowns. It just needs to feel authentic, and this is actually what they want to make. Listen to this one if you enjoy any style of prog, and I think you might be able to find something you appreciate. And finally, for albums that I missed, we have Warmian with Immemorial Shrine. The debut album from Anton of Inherits the Void is exactly what I was looking for. It perfectly balances melodeath and melodic death doom into the style that just strikes such a chord, and it makes me feel so many emotions as I listen. I can hear as many bands like Early Day Catatonia in this as I do bands like October Tide or even Edge of Sanity. I can even hear some Horacle or the Jester Race era In Flames on the occasional riff. It's an emotionally draining album, as melodic death doom tends to do, and that's exactly the point and why I love it so much. It's sad, gripping, and it may make you shed the occasional tear if you're not careful. This also feels like the perfect counterbalance to his other band Inherits the Void, which is much more focused on the faster, mellow death, black metal kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong, some speedy moments do occasionally happen here, but it's the exception, not the rule. It's a beautifully dark album that only gets better the more you listen to it, and if that's for you, this will be an album that you'll keep going back to for years and years to come. Absolutely incredible work. We start off today with the fourth album from the band Dormant Ordeal with Tooth and Nail. This is a band from Poland that is just writing some crushingly heavy music, but it scales back just enough for effectiveness. It is a predominantly heavy album on the heavier ends of death metal, almost bordering on brutal death metal, and you'll hear bands like Behemoth, Ulcerates, Hate Eternal, etc., but you'll also hear these dissonant and atmospheric moments, almost avant-garde at times, kind of reminding you of bands like Deathspell Omega, Gorgira, Aura, Decapitated. It's quite the blend of sounds, but I think it works magnificently. The production is stellar, and the songwriting is exactly what it calls for. This is how you make a death metal stand out in a genre of death metal where so many bands do start to sound the same after a while. It's stellar work, and I hope others are going to check this one out because this is how you make death metal stand out. Next up, we have Empyrean Sanctum with Detachment from Reality. The sophomore album from Justin Kellerman is a progressive metal album that fits all the needs of what I'm looking for in this style, particularly in the more modern style of progressive metal. It is a proggy album for sure, and it hits so many moments that you associate with the style, but it never gets out of control wanky, nor does it have 20-minute epics that go nowhere. It's just heavy enough, and it never loses sight of the melodies, harmonies, and catchy moments that songs should have to grab people's attention. It features some guest appearances, and some on the entire album from members of bands like Alkaloid, Revocation, Scar Symmetry, and the Gabriel Construct. It really does have a high caliber backing to make Kellerman's music shine the best that it possibly can. As I said, this is my kind of progressive metal these days, and it is exactly what it needs to be effective. If you want that perfect balance of technical and catchy, you need Empyrean Sanctum. Now we have Exterminatus with Echoes from a Distant Star, Part 1. Warhammer 40k inspired tech death? Yeah, that sounds pretty good to me. Featuring past and present members of the Zenith Passage, Xenocide, Atavistia, and more. This is some brutal tech death that will pummel you into the ground and make you beg for mercy. What makes this stand out is not just thematically, I mean, just look at the title of the band, I mean, you can already tell it's Warhammer, but musically, it's not just an endless fretboard Olympics or 300 BPM blast beats going on the whole time. I mean, obviously there's moments like that, but the music is so dynamic that it doesn't feel like it's just an endless assault. Don't get me wrong, if that's what you want, that is still here, but there's just enough moments to let you breathe through all of the chaos. The production is crystal clear, and the musicality on display is otherworldly. This is how tech death should be done, and the third album from this Vancouver band perfects that sound. If you want some really, truly inspired tech death, check out Exterminatus. Now we have Fractured Fairy Tales with Parasomnia, the fourth album from this East Coast band. Somehow, the second album called Parasomnia this year is an insane display of industrial, black, and death metal all rolled into one. It feels like when you mix Cradle of Filth, Pain, and some more American metal influences all rolled into one. This is a rough listen as the production is very raw and dirty, but I think that's also what the music calls for. I mean, they're called Fractured Fairy Tales, so if the production is a little fractured, it makes sense. The devastating lyrics fit the mood of 2025, the songwriting just blends these styles in a way that sounds odd on paper, but it's so effective when it works. The overall vibe is just begging for a live experience, like if you like what's on record, it's gonna sound better live. For those looking for the extreme ends of these genres, but you still want it to just be catchy enough, you should give this one a shot. Next up, we have I Am Your God with Trinity, the third album from this Finnish outfit that seemingly blends melodeath, modern metal, and the occasional power metal into their sound to create one of the finest melodeath albums of 2025 so far. This is an album with so much ferocity, and it just sucker punches you with these hooky choruses and melodic moments that couldn't be more welcomed in this sound. The production fits like a glove, and the songwritingly simply works in the best of ways. If you dig the likes of Norther, Children of Bodom, Horizon Ignited, and Blood Red Hourglass, you need to bow down to I Am Your God. Now we have Lorraine Luhimo with Falling Through Stars, the sophomore album from Netta Lorraine of Smackbound and Nouru Lohimo of Battle Beast combines the best of what these two do. It's that hard rock, heavy metal, power metal, and a little bit of modern metal, mixing their clean and grittier rock vocals together in perfect harmony. You hit everything from the Runaways to Rainbow to their own bands, and it all just makes sense. Both singers have some of the finest heavy rock vocals in the Finnish world, and it's great to hear them working together again to create music that is meant for anyone who simply enjoys the heavier but also kind of the poppier ends of rock. Everything simply works on this one. It's an album that can help take away from the pain of current times, and honestly, who couldn't use that right now? If this sounds intriguing to you at all, I think you should give this one a proper shot and see if it's for you. Now we have Leak with Necro. One of, if not my favorite old school death metal band is back for their fourth album, and it's exactly what I was hoping for in 2025. Almost 41 minutes and 10 tracks of unadulterated and undead death metal. Whether it hits the near Death Doom territories, does the signature 90s death metal mid-tempo stompers, or it kicks it into 12th gear on a full-on assault, Leak does it flawlessly, and it only gets better as you listen. This is meant for you if you love the likes of Bloodbath, Early Day Entombed, Grave, and Dismember, Leak rises from the grave once again for another slab of old school death metal, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Switching gears, we got Lux Terminus with Cinder. Lux Terminus is back with their sophomore album, and it's been a long wait since 2018. Vikram Shankar and company are some of the most valued members of prog metal going on right now, and of course, Vikram has become pretty much the MVP of prog metal as well. But it's great to see them all coming back together for the power that is Lux Terminus. Going from very jazzy prog rock band to a band that almost celebrates every style of prog is no easy feat to accomplish while sounding authentic, but that's exactly what this trio does. While a majority of the album is instrumental, and it does show off everyone at the band at their finest, there are songs on the album that feature guest appearances from Ross Jennings of Haken, John Pyers of Violet Sin, and vocal harmonies from Espera. This is quality prog. Such quality, you won't even notice that there's no guitars on the album. That's right, a prog metal album with no guitars. Who would have thought? It's just keyboards, bass, and drums, and of course the occasional vocals. That's just the power of the music on hand. Lux Terminus put out one of my favorite albums with their 2018 debut, and I dare say they may have done it again in 2025. Outstanding work. And finally, for brand new albums out today, we end things with Sick and Beautiful with Horror Vacui, which of course is Horror Queen. The fourth album from this Outer Space band, which is currently on a ship of Satan, is easily the band's most accessible and catchiest music they've created to date. While I've enjoyed every album this band has done so far, and I did an interview for their previous album, the band has refined their sound to cut all of the fat in the music and is literally writing music for the music on hand. Some of the songs get into the heavier territory, sometimes a bit more industrial and danceable, but so much of this album feels like it should be on FM rock or even pop radio. This may be an album where that could happen. I can't blame the band for going in this direction, as it has something for everyone who enjoys the more simplistic nature of radio rock without completely leaving behind their industrial and metal days. Somehow mixing 80s through 2020s music in a way that couldn't feel more natural to their unique sound is no easy feat. If you want to hear what should be on your local rock station, pick this one up and demand that you hear it on the station. You'll be doing the world a favor. And now for everything I missed along the way, starting with the band Benediction with Ravage of Empires. Benediction has been through a lot as a death metal band over the past 35 years since their debut album, and now with their 9th album, the band is putting out that style of death metal that made them a staple of the underground to begin with. This is the style of death metal that never goes to the absolute extremes. It hits that perfect balance of bands like Bolt Thrower, Asphyx, Grave, etc. that only goes so fast and only goes for what is necessary. It's that peppy mid-tempo sound that feels much like a sweet spot for the genre that focuses on the riffs, the vocals, and the brutality at hand. The production is exactly what it needs to be for the style. The songwriting is lean and mean. If you want one of the best examples of the death metal style that just feels right, check out the latest album from Benediction. Now we have the third album from Crawling Chaos with what is either pronounced weird or word. It's W-Y-R-D, and I've heard it pronounced both ways, so, pick your poison. Again, this is the third album from this Italian death grind band. It's my first foray into the band, but I've instantly loved what is going on here. It's that perfect blend of grindcore, the heaviest ends of death metal, but somehow having these dissonant, atmospheric, and melodic moments of breathing room that ties everything together. It feels very sophisticated in its brutality. I know that's a strange thing to say, but when you listen to it, it starts to make sense. This is part suffocation, part cattle decapitation, and part septic flesh. If that description captures your interest at all, you need to give Crawling Chaos a proper listen. You just might be blown away. Next, we have Destinity with Ascension. Many people, in my circles at least, discovered this band from their 2021 album In Continuum, but this French band has gone through so many different phases, and they're currently on their 10th album since 1999. I think they finally found the sound that they've been looking for all of this time, hitting that perfect balance of melodeath, of dark tranquility, and thrashier moments like bands like The Crown, and this otherworldly feel that you can only get from a band like Hypocrisy. Roll that all together, you have Destinity. This is without a shadow of the doubt the best album the band has done to date, and it only gets better the more you listen to it. Perfect songwriting, perfect production. It's just perfection. Melodeath doesn't get more refined and defined than this, and if you want the best of it so far in 2025, check out Destinity. Up now we have Demon with Consciousness. Insomnia meets Edge of Sanity. What else could you possibly need? Seriously, this feels like the most epic moments of bands like Edge of Sanity. I mean, think of the Crimson, Purgatory Afterglow era of the band, and you mix that with the melodicness and sadness of Insomnium, and you have Demon. The sophomore album from this Finnish band just hits that scratch that desperately has been needing to be itched for so long in the melodeath sound, and I love every single second of it. From the refined production to the songwriting that just keeps getting better the more you listen to it. This has everything to make a melodeath fan foam at the mouth in excitement. I can't sell it any better than that. If you love melodeath, you need Demon. Now we have Embryum with Timekeeper. The debut album from the San Francisco outfit was something I never would have expected, but I'm so happy that I stumbled upon this. A black gaze band that hits the most ethereal, folky, and nearly orchestrated side of metal all mixed together to create this great black gaze sound. Seriously, the music is so well thought out and orchestrated without sounding symphonic, yet it feels so sophisticated, and it has this great approach of blackened folk era bathory while keeping those tinges of bands like Vatnat Visca, Mirkur, and even more Druna at times. This is a spectacular album that can be as unnerving as it is mystical, and it's amazing to see how bands like this are pushing the black gaze genre to see what is possible. And if you want that in your black gaze, check out Embryum. Now we have Elven King with Reader of the Runes, Luna. The final album of Elven King's Reader of the Runes trilogy is easily some of the darkest and heaviest material the band has done to date. Elven King was the second power metal band I ever discovered right after Blind Guardian. In fact, I checked them out the same day. And I still associate the band with songs like The Scythe and The Winter Wake, but hearing them go into almost black metal territory on this trilogy is still quite the shock to the system. Don't get me wrong, if you are looking for that fluffy power folk metal sound, that is still here, but it has so much dark atmosphere throughout all of it, and it does create some of their heaviest music ever. You mix those two sounds together, and I think it truly works. I'm very curious to see what direction they're going to be going into now that this trilogy is over, but until then, hearing all three albums in succession for this trilogy has been quite the trip, and Luna is the perfect cap to it all. Seeing the band actually be able to tour America because of what they're doing now on this trilogy just makes me so happy as a longtime fan, and if you want some of the heaviest ends of power folk and almost getting into black metal territory, check out Elven King. But don't start with Luna, start with the first album of the Reader of the Runes trilogy if you're gonna do that, but just check it out and see if it's for you. Now we have Imperishable with Swallowing the World. The sophomore album from the Swedish outfit is that perfect blend of death metal and black metal, wrapped in this dark, melodic, and melancholic veil that couldn't be more appropriate. Featuring past and present members of Vampire, Portrait, Namian, and Exterminated, this is a band that perfectly captures the horror and sinister tone that is 2025, and yeah, it sadly offers that up on a plate. The melodeath done here with that just right amount of black metal tone to it all just makes everything feel very authentic in the best of ways, and it only gets better the more that you listen to it. If you want to hear something that feels like a mix of Dismember, At the Gates, and the faintest hits of Dark Funeral, yeah, you need this one, and I mean now. Now we have the Man-Eating Tree with Night Verses. Finally, rising from the grave from after a decade comes the Man-Eating Tree. Yanni Marcus of Poison Black has brought back this, and once you know it, Poison Black, from the ashes to fit the dark void that has been left ever since both bands have been put to pasture. But with the Man-Eating Tree, the mix of gothic metal, melodic death, and the occasional death doom is exactly what my sad boy senses need. Catatonia meets the goth era of Amorphous meets Entwine and Sharon. This is easily going to be one of my favorite albums of the year, and it only gets better on every subsequent listen. One of the best goth metal albums of the year, one of the best goth metal albums of the year. Yeah, if you've never checked them out before and you dig this style, you need the Man-Eating Tree. Now we have Morculak with Sanguinaria. And speaking of sophisticated black metal, this is another tomb slab of it. The sophomore album from this Italian band takes everything that works about their debut album and perfects it. The production is still quite raw, and once you know it feels as raw as watching the original Nosferatu, but the music behind it is so haunting and enchanting that it feels like this needs to be the soundtrack to a vampire film that is yet to be made. The synths behind it is exactly what sells it for me, making a raw black metal album feel as though you're on the swing of death with Dracula himself. There are also other occasional black gaze, post-black elements that couldn't fit the music any better if they tried. This is for those who enjoy the Order of Nosferatu and Satanic War Master completely. Or maybe if you just love the vampiric atmosphere of it all, and the setting and the time frame. If you love that stuff, you need to check out Morculak. Next, we have Serpent Rider with the Ichor of Chimera. The debut album from this now Seattle band is the perfect blend of classic metal, heavy metal, and the occasional classic doom metal that I love so very, very much. With a raw but effective production style, this album feels like it was buried in 1984 but unearthed in 2025. The soaring vocals to this classic guitar tone makes the aesthetic of the band feel so effective, and it hits in all the right ways. If you need that mix of bands like Manila Road, Hammers of Misfortune, and even a newer band like Smolder, you have found your new favorite band with Serpent Rider. This is going to be a huge year for revival metal, and I see this band probably getting near the top of it. I can feel it. And finally, we end things today with a band name that I am so sorry if I butcher, but I've tried so many times to get this right. Soliloquium with Famine. This is some super depressing melodic death doom in all of the best ways, and what else could my broken soul possibly want? The fifth album from the Swedish duo is doing astounding work for the genre, creating some of the most tear-jerking melodic death doom that I've heard all year. It's so effective from its just raw sound enough, to its use of melodies and harmonies that strike at your heartstrings, to the super heavy moments that come in and just destroy everything in its path. This is a band that you need in your life if you enjoy the likes of October Tide, Daylight Dies, November's Doom, and especially Rapture and Counting Hours. Seriously. It's a heartbreaking album, but in a world that we currently live in like we do in 2025, it fits the atmosphere, and it might give you a nice cathartic cry. I know it did for me. If you love melodic death doom, or you want to see a stellar example of what it's all about, make sure to check this out. First up, we have Aeonazar with the Profane Era. They say you can never rush your debut album, and for this band, sometimes it takes 20 years to make that happen. Well, 19 in fact. But the debut album from this German outfit is quite the sight to behold, combining the best of symphonic, black metal, and death metal all rolled into one to create a dense, deep, and rewarding atmosphere of sound. The music gets brutal with its deep growls and the death metal tendencies, while it hits just enough of that symphonic black metal elements, and especially in guitar tone, to create a sound that is just as much Dimmu Borgir as it is Flesh God Apocalypse. The songs are inspired and never drag on, and are all performed with just the perfect amount of spice in the production. If you want your symphonic metal on the brutal side, or if you want your death metal side a little more whimsical, Aeonazar is the band for you. Now we have Ahemkara with the Horror of the Lost. The sophomore album I did not see coming. The return of this band is here with one of the most devastating black metal albums of 2025. I didn't think they would get back together after the passing of Stephen Black back in 2015, but I am so happy to be proven wrong. Even if the music is filled with darkness, sadness, torment, and ultimately a very cathartic feel, the band is back as a trio with new members Alexandra Blenkarn-Durning on keys and Austin Lunn of Panopticon on drums. This is such an emotionally gripping album that hits all the right spots at home for anyone who has ever dealt with loss and needs a way to process grief. For reference, the production is very reminiscent of early day Panopticon, with Michael Blenkarn's ferocious black metal vocal delivery and guitar tones. This feels like equal part Winterfell, Wooden's Throne, and of course, the black metal side of Panopticon. They also add these ethereal moments of emotional soundscapes in just the right spots to add these intense emotional state of it all. This is easily one of the best black metal albums of 2025 so far, and if it keeps up the momentum, it might be the best at the end of the year. If you want emotionally gripping black metal, you need Ahemkara. Now we have Art Nation with The Ascendants. The fifth album from the Swedish band is easily some of the band's best work to date. The songs are instantly catchy, whether they hit the furthest reaches of heavy metal, the closest to AOR melodic rock that you can imagine, or incorporate more modern rock, modern metal tendencies. This is also their heaviest album to date by far, getting into near power metal and sometimes dangerously close to death metal, without ever losing sight of that AOR sound, which is an incredible thing to see, and something I never would have expected. The production is impeccable, and the performances on display couldn't feel more authentic and powerful if they tried. If you take the likes of Dynasty and Eclipse, but you want it heavier, Art Nation's fifth album is tailor-made for you. This is how it's done, folks. Now we have Bark with Your Time Has Come. 5 albums into this Belgian band's discography sees the bands perfectly balancing their blend of hardcore, groove, and death and roll into a sound that feels just right for any kind of metalhead. Whether the band kicks into 12th gear, or they do things at a heavy mid-tempo stomper, the band continues refining their sound to make sure there is no fat left on the bone. It's all lean and very mean. 12 songs and almost 43.5 minutes long feels like the exact length this album needs to be a effective. The production has everything in the hardcore style to make things stand out, and the songwriting and performances on display hit all the right elements. Be the occasional guitar solo, or just the endless pummeling that happens, it's all here, and it is sure to open up any pit that they play live. Bark has bite, and if you like the sound of that, go check out Your Time Has Come. Now we have Beholder with In the Temple of the Tyrant. This debut album from this US band combines so many elements that I love rolled into one. It gets as heavy in its doom style to hitting these traditional power metal styles that would make any fan of the classic era of power metal very happy, to just this overall metal vibe of all the classic revival metal bands that have been happening lately have been pulling off. But this is done just differently enough to feel right. The production sounds modern, but its style is classic in every way. The songwriting on hand is so effective, and it hits in all the right ways. It's endlessly catchy, and while still being able to experiment with their sound. And if you want something that sounds like a winning combination of Candlemass, Riot, Manila Road, and Night Demon, check out the brand new band known as Beholder. Now we have Coffin Feeder with Big Trouble, an all-star band that was formed in loving tribute to 80s and 90s action movies. Well, sign me up. Well, technically the band started off talking about serial killers, but on this debut album, yeah, it's all 80s and 90s action movie love. Sven from Aborted has created a new band with an incredible lineup that hits the heaviest ends of death metal, while incorporating more modern tropes of hardcore and especially deathcore, all rolled into one. The album is loaded with guest features from bands like Benighted, Chimera, Shadow of Intent, and so many more. One look at the album cover and you know exactly what you're going to be getting. If you want the perfect counterbalance to Aborted's Vault of Horrors, which came out last year, this is it. Coffin Feeder is simply a great time if you enjoy brutal music and big explosions. What more could you possibly want? Next, we have Deserted Fear with Veins of Fire. Deserted Fear has gone through a lot of musical changes over the years, and in 2025, with their 6th album, this German band has put out one of their catchiest albums to date. The band has found the right balance of how to create melodeath and knows how to teeter between going almost full-on death metal assault and stepping back to create some of the most melodic melodeath that you've ever heard. This is an album that moves closer to the latter for the most part, especially that middle era, Reroute to Remain through Come Clarity era In Flames, for example, but so much is done with authenticity and tenacity behind it. What makes this album stand out is the message behind it all. A message of unity and to stop the injustices of the world in a way that doesn't pander to either side of the political spectrum. It's about togetherness, not separating us. It's done in a way that both sides can appreciate, and there's simply not enough of that in the world anymore. This is an album with heart in 2025, and we need that more than ever. Give this one a proper listen if you want a melodeath album that is filled to the brim with heart and soul. Next up, we have Employed to Serve with Fallen Star. The 3rd album from this UK outfit finds Employed to Serve finding their niche and striking it as hard as possible. Somehow writing some of the catchiest music in the style while still finding room to create some of the heaviest breakdowns in the genre at the same time is no easy feat, but they've nailed it. This is easily the band's most straightforward work, as they were more mathcore, but now the band is starting to replace that mathcore sound with a more modern metal sound, and it fits like a glove for the band. Though you still hear the slight nods to mathcore, if you look for it, it is still kinda there. The production is pristine and the songwriting fits right at home with bands like Code Orange, Beartooth, I Prevail, and others. While the band is getting simpler, the power is just as strong. Check this one out if you want a good representation of what 2020's modern metal should sound. Now we have LVT with Anu, and yes, I did look it up to make sure that is how it's pronounced, both the band name and the album title. It has not been an easy road for LVT to get to their 9th album. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened behind the scenes, but here we are, and it's great to see them back. The band is filled with that classic LVT folk metal sound that you know and love, both the classic era and the modern day sound, but there is an occasional song that feels more like a modern metal track than it does folk metal. For example, there's guitar solos. That's just something you don't expect in LVT. The production is also much more modern sounding, as well as letting you hear every single nuance and layer if you listen for it, which is a great thing to see. This is not your typical LVT album, but the band has also gone through a lot over the past several years, as we all have. Seeing the band back with their first album since 2019 is a welcome thing to see, and seeing where they are now, embracing the past, present, and potentially the future sounds of the band, I'm curious to see where the band is going to be going from here. But until then, the band is doing what they do best by creating some of the most authentic, melodic, and heavy folk metal out there. If you've never checked out the band before, this is a great place to start and go backwards. For returning fans, it's time to embrace the here and the now. Here we have Game Over with Face the End. Italy's Game Over is back with their 6th album and a new lineup, and it's such a welcomed album in 2025. Straightforward but melodic and heavy thrash metal through and through, and the new lineup just makes the band sound so rejuvenated. It's part Overkill, part Testament, part Nuclear Assault, part Havoc, but all Game Over through and through. The songwriting just feels even stronger than it has in the past, and the new implementation of vocals is exactly what the band has needed. This is exactly how I love my kind of thrash metal, and it's so great to see one of the greats of the 21st century thrash breathe new life. 10 songs, 33.5 minutes, all killer, no filler. Pure, unadulterated thrash. If that doesn't sell you on Game Over's Face the End, nothing will. Next up, we have Ghost Seeker with Divergence. The debut album from the Australian modern metal band is exactly what needs to be on FM radio right now, and I'm serious. It's both catchy and melodic, but it also knows when to get heavy and just a tad bit proggy. With crystal clear production and songwriting that is meant to be for those that want their music just heavy enough, but it also wants some sing-along choruses with everyone in the room. Ghost Singer hits that perfect formula of pop, metal, electronic, alternative, and so much more to create a little bit of something for everybody. Seriously, this band isn't on American FM radio right now as far as I know, but it should be by the end of the year, and if it's not, there's totally something wrong with the system. I mean, there always has been, but you know what I mean, they deserve to explode on the radio charts. If you want something just heavy enough for rock and metal, and you wouldn't necessarily turn off the radio dial for it, check out Ghost Seeker. Up now we have Heat with Welcome to the Future. Sweden's Heat returns with their 8th album, and it's everything I wanted it to be. Super catchy, but just heavy enough. Filled with soaring vocals and excellent guitar solos. It's everything that works in the melodic rock, arena rock, and AOR sound, done with such authenticity and perfection. Every song just simply works, and it hits that scratch that desperately needed to be itched. Heat has always been one of the shining examples of AOR in the 21st century, and in 2025, the momentum is still in top form, and there's no signs of slowing down. Simply put, if you love AOR and have never heard Heat, you need to change that right now. Now we have Kardashev with Seed of the Night, and this is album of the year material for me, and I am dead serious. I have loved this band since their debut album in 2015, and 10 years later, the band is at its best, and it's only going to get better from here on out. Combining tech death, shoegaze, progressive post-metal, and more into a sound that they call deathgaze, a very apt description when you think about it, the band has perfected their sound. Somehow they managed to keep getting heavier and heavier, all while getting more and more melodic and emotional. From the first time I heard Reunion as a single, I cried, and I'm not ashamed to say that. The music is just as moving to my ears. What I wouldn't give for a Kardashev Tomarum tour one day, for a perfect blend of tech metal and emotionally driven metal night after night. If you enjoy the likes of the aforementioned Tomarum, Fallujah, and other bands that can blow you away technically and emotionally, you need Kardashev. It's some of the most moving and captivating metal that you're going to hear in all of 2025. Now we have Machine Head with Unatoned, and yes, they're continuing on with the /0 in their album titles and their song titles for some reason. While continuing on with that trend, Machine Head is back with their 11th album, and a new lineup. The band is continuing to blend their past and present elements of thrash, groove, nu metal, mainstream metal, and other influences all rolled into one. This does feel like an album that hints at their best traits, but it also hits a lot of modern trends of the more electronic and FM-friendly bands would try to appease on both sides of the Machine Head fan base. Like, I hear a little too much Five Finger Death Punch, for example, but you know, just from the other side of the political spectrum. The production is great as always, and you can never take that away from them. I'm curious to see where the band goes from here on their 12th album, but seriously, I really do hope the /0 thing does go away eventually. They're from San Francisco after all. You're not from Scandinavia. But if you like newer Machine Head with traces of the old stuff, yeah, this is probably for you. Here we have Phantom with Tyrants of Wrath. The sophomore album from this Mexican speed thrash metal band is pure 1987. It hits all the great elements that you would expect from the style, that classic speed and thrash metal sound, with just the slightest hints of bands like Possessed, and even more, you hear elements of black metal throughout all of this. The production is classic in its sound, and the songwriting feels almost has this atmospheric vibe to it all that just fits so perfectly. Hitting those elements of bands like Midnight, Deathhammer, Cruel Force, and especially a band like Vulture, Phantom is doing some incredible work in this near blackened speed and thrash metal sound that I wish more bands would continue to explore and experiment with. If you like this style and you want it to just be a little more evil and haunted, you need to check out Phantom. Next up, we have Sacred Steel with Ritual Supremacy. The 10th album in 29 years from this legendary German band combines the best of what the band has always done, but updates it just enough for 2025. The classic elements are here in full force and combines that epic power metal, thrash metal, speed metal, and almost blackened sound at times, and finds a way to make it all feel as fresh as it did in 1996 when they started. The production is punchy, but it also sounds a little bit raw. It's a great combination of stuff that really works in their favor. This truly is everything that you love about the sound all rolled in one package. If that's what you crave in 2025, Sacred Steel is back, and they've done such a magnificent job with it in Ritual Supremacy. Up now, we have Teaser Sweet with Night Stalker. The 4th album from the Swedish outfit is some of their best work, easily some of their best work. The band continues to refine their sound to create this perfect blend of heavy, catchy, and memorable moments, with lyrics that strike hard and performances from the entire band that feels authentic and exactly what is called for in every song. Every song kind of does feel like it has like this kind of sultry feel behind it, kind of like you're getting sweet-talked by a serial killer before you meet your demise. It's just a fun album from start to finish that has so many headbanging moments as it does sing-along moments for the whole crowd to sing along to at every show. The production gives everything a vintage feel, and it makes you want to get your battle vest on and enjoy the night. Seriously, if you dig the likes of Doro, Crucified Barbara, and Savage Master, you need Teaser Sweet. Now here we have Trick or Treat with Ghosted. Simply one of the best and most fun power metal bands of recent times, Trick or Treat is back with their 8th album in 19 years. Alessandro Conti and company are back with their most horror-inspired album to date. The fact that this album has songs inspired by both The Evil Dead and Return to Monkey Island will always make me smile from ear to ear. The songs are so much fun as well. All of them are just dark enough, but they never lose sight of the fun power metal that they've always set out to be. The production fits the band like a glove, and the songwriting is that signature Trick or Treat sound through and through. Ghosted is a shining example of why I love this band so much, and if you love fun power metal without a gimmick and it never loses sight of the songwriting, you need Trick or Treat in your life. And finally, for brand new stuff out today, we have Wednesday 13 with Mid-Death Crisis. I can't believe we are now 10 solo albums into Wednesday 13's career. Every album has a little bit of a different flair behind it while still having that signature Wednesday 13 sound. This time around, Mid-Death Crisis has more of an 80s metal influence. It's a bit heavier than some of his previous work. Of course, it will always have that sound of horror punk, horror rock, industrial, all those kind of vibes to it, but hearing the occasional 80s riff, double bass, and those bluesy elements thrown in is such a cool thing to see. It also helps that Faster Pussycat's Tie Me Down shows up for a track and really gives that 80s authenticness to all of it. This feels like the most rejuvenated album in his career, and for someone with 10 solo albums in their solo career, let alone the rest of his resume, that is something for any musician to aspire to. Yeah, this is how you keep inspired, and I hope Wednesday 13 keeps up this momentum. It's easily one of my favorite albums that he's done so far. And that was all of the brand new albums that are out today, and I have one lone album that I missed this week, and it's Red Moon Architect with October Decay. As Joey Lawrence once said, "Whoa, the 6th album from this Finnish melodic death doom band is tailor-made for my sad boy needs." Featuring past and present members of Before the Dawn, Crimson Sun, and Oceans, and Aeonian Sorrow, this borders on funeral doom in all of the best ways, but it never loses the melody and harmony of the band. The songs are infinitely sad, and will bring you down to the lowest pits of despair. But if you love this style like I do, that's exactly what you're looking for. If you love the likes of Shape of Despair, Swallow the Sun, and Draconian, Red Moon Architect may be your new obsession if you've never checked him out before. With every listen, this just keeps getting closer and closer to being my Doom album of the year. It will take a lot to get to the top spot in my Doom album of 2025, and time will only tell if it does hit the top spot. But until then, wow. Simply wow.